As the clock struck midnight on a foggy October evening, a lone pizza delivery driver named Jake prepared for his shift at a small, dimly lit pizzeria. Nestled in the heart of a quiet suburban town, the little shop was known for its mouth-watering pizzas and, as legend had it, a series of chilling encounters that sent shivers down the spines of anyone who dared to listen. Little did Jake know that this night would be one he would never forget, as he embarked on a series of deliveries that would reveal three of the most horrifying true pizza delivery stories. Story 1: The Silent House. The night was dark and misty as Jake, a seasoned pizza delivery driver, geared up for another shift. The clock struck midnight, and he knew it was time to hit the road. Jake had heard the rumors about the ominous house at the end of Elm Street, but nothing could have prepared him for what awaited him on that fateful evening. As he approached the house, its presence seemed to loom larger and darker. The windows were boarded up, and ivy crept up the decaying walls. It was a house that time had forgotten, a house that no one in their right mind would willingly visit. But the pizza was ordered, and Jake had a job to do. The gravel crunched beneath his car tires as he pulled into the driveway. Eerie shadows danced in the dim light of the moon. With a pizza box in hand, Jake ascended the crumbling steps to the front door. The night was deathly quiet, save for the haunting caw of distant crows. He rang the doorbell, and the sound echoed ominously through the stillness. Seconds stretched into minutes, and just as Jake was about to turn and leave, the door creaked open. There, in the doorway, stood a figure so unsettling that it made his blood run cold. A frail woman, her face a mask of pallor, with hollow eyes and a sinister grin, greeted him. Her bony fingers reached for the pizza box, and as she counted out the payment in faded, crumpled bills, she spoke in a whisper that sent shivers down Jake's spine. The last delivery boy, he never left. Jake's heart raced, and he stumbled backward, his eyes locked with the woman's vacant gaze. The door slowly closed, and he could hear her eerie laughter echoing through the darkness as he retreated to his car. He knew he had narrowly escaped a fate too dreadful to comprehend, for the legend of the silent house was far more sinister than he could have imagined. Story 2: The Haunting Tip. Jake's next delivery took him to a grand, dilapidated mansion on the outskirts of town. The mansion was infamous for being the site of a gruesome murder-suicide many years ago. It had been a local tragedy that had never faded from memory. The gravel driveway crunched beneath his tires as he approached the imposing front door. Moonlight cast eerie shadows across the overgrown garden, and he couldn't help but notice the flickering of candles in the mansion's windows. A chill ran down his spine, but he brushed it off as nerves and gathered the pizza boxes. As he rang the doorbell, the sound seemed to echo into the depths of the mansion. The seconds ticked by slowly, each one filled with an oppressive silence. Finally, the door opened, revealing a man in his 40s, his eyes cold and distant. He handed over the payment, which included a generous tip, and whispered, "Keep the change." Jake nodded and turned to leave, but before he could take a step, he felt a sudden drop in temperature, and he heard a faint, mournful wailing that seemed to emanate from within the house. He glanced back at the man, who had disappeared into the darkness of the mansion, leaving Jake with an overwhelming sense of dread. When he returned to the pizzeria, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that he had encountered a ghostly presence that night. The extra tip he had received consisted of ancient, faded coins, each one bearing the date of the murder-suicide that had taken place in the mansion. Story 3, The Vanishing Delivery. The night was growing darker as Jake embarked on his final delivery of the evening. This time, his destination was a quiet suburban neighborhood with neatly lined houses and well-maintained lawns. Everything seemed ordinary, but appearances could be deceiving. He parked in front of the address provided and grabbed the pizza box. As he approached the front door, he noticed that it was slightly ajar, swinging eerily in the breeze. A feeling of unease settled over him, but he couldn't turn back now. He cautiously entered the dimly lit house, calling out for the customer. There was no response, only the distant sound of a child's laughter echoing from deeper within. With each step he took, the laughter grew louder and more unsettling. Jake finally reached the source of the eerie laughter, a room filled with old toys and dusty furniture. In the center of the room stood a rocking chair, moving back and forth on its own. He felt a cold hand on his shoulder and turned to find a pale, ghostly child standing before him. "Where's my pizza?" the child asked, his voice echoing with a haunting emptiness. Terrified, Jake stumbled backward, dropping the pizza box. He turned and fled the house, the child's laughter following him all the way to his car. Back at the pizzeria, Jake recounted his nightmarish encounter to his coworkers. They exchanged uneasy glances, and one of them whispered, "That house has been abandoned for years. No one lives there." As the clock struck the end of his shift, Jake couldn't help but wonder if he had just delivered pizzas to the restless spirits of the deceased. He knew one thing for certain, those 3 deliveries had forever changed him, and he would never look at his job the same way again. As he left the pizzeria that fateful night, the fog had thickened, and the town seemed to be holding its breath, as though it too was haunted by the chilling tales of pizza delivery horror. Jake knew he would never forget those terrifying encounters, and he couldn't help but wonder what other horrors lurked in the darkness, waiting for the next unsuspecting pizza delivery driver to cross their path.